Who has more wins over the next 5 years, Brian Kelly or Billy Napier? Now, Cooper's a good friend. Well, he's a friend. Is he good? We'll see by the end of this answer. He's trying to get me to choose a side here and thus alienate an SEC fan base, which goes against all protocol on this program, especially in springtime. But look at what we have here. Keep in mind these programs play every year. For those unfamiliar out there, if you chose to just check out in November of last year and you just came back to the college football watering hole, yeah, actually, if that's your scenario, wow, what a shock I have for you here. Brian Kelly's now the head coach at LSU. Napier is over in Gainesville. He's at Florida. So these two are going to play each other every year. If I were to ask you this question, some of you are probably already working this out in your mind, which of them has more wins 5 years from now? And they play each other, so it's not just a head-to-head record, but is it a 3-2, 2-3, is it a 4-1, is it a clean sweep? And what do you value more here? Because this is where I came. This is the angle I came from. Do I value tenure? Seasoning, if you will, because that's what Brian Kelly has. I've seen Brian Kelly do it at this level, at the Power 5 level. I've seen him do it for quite a while. You know my affinity for Brian Kelly, but I've also got a healthy amount of affinity for Billy Napier, too. So do I value the seasoning, the Wikipedia track record list, if you will, or do I value a guy who is an up-and-comer, who I think has all the tools as well, just gets a chance to shine finally on the big stage, and, at least as of this moment, has a more workable path? The reason I say as of this moment is because I know there's this thinking out there that the SEC East will forever lag behind the SEC West. It has for a little while. I don't know if that's always going to be the case. Certainly, there has to be somewhat of a cyclical nature to this. And I think Tennessee, if we were to do red arrow, green arrow, certainly Tennessee is an improving program and could be a rapidly improving program with the quarterback situation there. And I'm talking about future tense and present tense. Also, South Carolina is improving under Shane Beamer. Kentucky is Kentucky. I got a question today about why I don't talk about Missouri more. Ironically, we're doing a mailbag episode, and a question about Missouri was not posed. Just ask why I don't talk about the Tigers more. Ask a Missouri question, I'll answer it. So, yeah, the SEC East lags behind right now. I don't know, maybe the gap will be so wide as to affect the answer to this question, because it is a grown man's chore to have to draw Alabama and Texas A&M every year. And now Sam Pittman has all of a sudden decided to announce Arkansas is just kind of here and not going away. It's not going to be a little spike year, a little one-year wonder year. Eventually, something's going to happen at Auburn. Either Brian Harsin will get it figured out or someone else will. And it just kind of, the drumbeat goes on. I didn't even mention Ole Miss. They won 10 games last year. I think if I power rated the hires, as we already did on this show, I liked Kelly more. I think because of the division situation, if I were to have to place money on this, I actually may lean Napier by the slimmest of margins. So, I don't know. I really don't know. You know what it may come down to? It may actually come down to the head-to-head factor. As crazy as that sounds over a 5-year period. Basically, there is no skilled way to answer this question. I'm going to go 51% Napier, which reserves the right for me to say, well, it was only a 51% guess if and when Brian Kelly just starts immediately dominating in year one. We're going to talk more about LSU, not tonight necessarily, but I was, as I said, on a complete bust of a storm chase yesterday, and so I got a chance to listen to virtually every podcast on the 24/7 Sports Network, and I was listening to Shay and the guys with the Go 24/7 pod talking about some of the very, very early reactions to Brian Kelly practices at LSU, and I've been looking forward to this. The vibe that's coming off of LSU football, because I knew what it was going to sound like. This was no mystery. It was going to sound something along the lines of this. Things are more professional. Things are more structured. Guys are a lot more detail-oriented. Guys are about their business a whole lot more. Yeah, stands to reason when you understand what you're shifting from to. I'm interested to see what they think about the roster they inherited. What do they think? How many of these true freshmen realistically can be plug-in helps? Immediate impact, guys. And then how much further down the road are we going to have to get until we think we can quote-unquote contend, until we really think we're in the picture? A lot of the more reasonable analysis, and I would agree with this, is if you want to talk about that C word, contention, you're probably talking about next year being the first year you can reasonably have that conversation. This year is get it on the rails and dust the program off and make sure it's ready to go for next year, and anything you get this year is gravy. Look, you could say the same thing about Napier at Florida. I think a fun side question to this would be, who should you or whomst should you expect more from in year one? But it's not a Q&A mailbag for me. It's a Q&A mailbag for you. So when one of you asks the question, I will answer it.